Those dirty, rotten, no good Arizona Cardinals trying to tamper with the San Francisco 49ers have requested to interview Robert Saleh for their vacant head coach job, and a shocker, John Harbaugh fired. How could that affect the world of coaching and execs moving in the NFL this offseason? Of course, we got to get ready for Eagles 49ers wild card weekend on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you as always. A very special guest on this Wednesday episode. You know the score if you are an everyday listener. Thanks everybody for tuning in as always. And thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by FanDuel. And before tip-off, check FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And now let's just do it. Let's get into it. Let's bring on today's guest. There's so much to talk about in 49ers land. There's offseason happenings. Behind the scenes, there's real playoff action happening for the San Francisco 49ers. And to help us cut through it all, Mr. Nicholas Winkler.
Nicholas Winkler, come on down.
Action News 8 Sports with Nick Winkler.
Can't believe it.
Wink, what's happening, my man? Rough one Saturday night for the San Francisco 49ers. I want to talk football in a second, but there's a little bit of news-related stuff here, Wink. And if you don't know Nicholas Winkler, he is the voice of the fan, and he is my former radio colleague. We used to do a little 49ers podcast before I started doing Locked On 49ers many years ago now. Almost 10 years ago now is when we were doing that, which is really insane. And yeah, so he's our weekly guest. We still talk ball here weekly on Locked On 49ers with Mr. Nicholas Winkler. And Wink, the Arizona Cardinals have requested to interview Robert Saleh. Now, here's the interesting thing is they requested because I guess you have to, but at the same time, you don't have to, because if it's not a lateral move, the 49ers can't say no. So I guess it's just a nicety for them to be like, hey, we're going to try to hire your guy away from you, right? Try to hurt your division rival. Robert Saleh, not the only name on the list for the Arizona Cardinals, by the way. Seahawks offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak, former 49ers assistant, Broncos defensive coordinator Vance Joseph, Dolphins defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver, and Patriots passing game coordinator Thomas Brown among the names, along with Robert Saleh, that the Arizona Cardinals have interviewed to request for their vacant head coaching job after they fired Jonathan Gannon earlier this week. Wink, we'll start with you. What do you think about potentially the Arizona Cardinals stealing away the 49ers defensive coordinator?
Don't do it, Saleh. Don't do it. Be smarter than that. Learn from that Jets move. Like, oh, yeah, it's nice to be king, right? It's nice to be on the top. It's nice to be the head coach. But if you go to a bad situation, bad results are going to happen. Don't go to the Cardinals. Hold out. Stick around, actually. Stay. How fun it was this season, right? Come on.
Who has won with the Cardinals? You don't want to go there. They got no quarterback. You already went through the no quarterback thing. And by the way, the Cards selecting third, which is where I believe Saleh's Jets.
There you go.
Drafted Sam Darnold, and then it was
three.
Then it was
got a BYU.
I think it was the second pick.
Yeah.
Right. That when Saleh was finally there, the next quarterback was drafted. So bad juju there. Maybe go to a team that has a quarterback. Maybe a team that's doesn't.
Technically, Arizona still has a quarterback, correct? I mean, technically.
True. That's true. I've sort of mentally already done the leaps of what's going to happen this offseason, and I fully expect Kyler Murray to move on. And so Jacoby Brissett is going to be the holdover for the Arizona Cardinals in my mind, and I think that's the right move, and that's where the Cardinals will end up being. But, if you're Robert Saleh, there's a new job that suddenly leaps to the front that is easily the best job out there because they have a superstar quarterback, and that is the Baltimore Ravens after 18 years, John Harbaugh, which is a wild one.
Mm-mm.
What do you think, Croc? That's got to be the #1 job by far, right?
Oh, yeah. So you mentioned Arizona. We've talked about the Jets, and they're just bad, poorly run organizations. The Baltimore Ravens are at the top of the NFL in the sense of just how they've been ran over the years. So if there's anywhere, if I'm Robert Saleh and I need a place to land, it would be there. I wouldn't even have to think about it. And you know, the GM, the owner, you have legit support. You already talked about having the superstar quarterback, and just kind of continuing to build around that. And Robert Saleh, with his defensive mindset, kind of get Baltimore back to being what they were a couple years ago with McDaniel. Right? Like, having that type of coordinating mindset, defense first. When I think of Baltimore, I think of defense. And I feel like over the last year, they've kind of gotten away from that. And obviously with Harbaugh, they kind of just ran this course. Terrific coach. I really like Harbaugh, but it probably was just, time for a change a little bit. The message probably getting a little bit stale. So if I'm Robert Saleh, I'm praying that Baltimore calls me.
And if you missed it earlier on in the week, Robert Saleh has changed representation. So he has a new agent going into this offseason as well. And, he wants another shot at head coach. And I think if you're Saleh, you might only get one more shot if you do ever get a shot again. And you want to make sure it's the right shot. So you're not just going to take, there's only 32 jobs. So if there's only one team offering, you kind of have to take it, even if it's the Browns or whatever. And it's or the Cardinals.
But do you?
An organization. You're going to get paid more. It's still a better job. You can go be defense coordinator again later in your career. You know
what I would do if I was Saleh? And because of just how everything kind of aligns, you can't really do it. But I would take a big college job. Like I would try to take the Penn State job or
interesting
University of Alabama. Like I would like one of those jobs and almost pull a Pete Carroll, right? Pete Carroll, head coach with the Jets, didn't work out. Said, all right, let me go to college. Went to USC, turned that thing up, and then parlayed that after all the sanctions and everything. He said, you know what? I see trouble here. Let me get up out of here. Went to the Seahawks and had a terrific, dang near a Hall of Fame kind of coaching career with Seattle. And again, he went from, I talked about the Jets, but this is a guy that coached many years prior to that. So, Robert Saleh, I could see him, how he looks, just how he is. Man, go to college, run a program, kind of build up some equity, and then now you get to do what Jim Harbaugh did, which was I can wait for the right coaching situation as opposed to just taking whatever is out there, which Baltimore would be the right situation, but you can wait and kind of build up this. What Harbaugh essentially did was like this. I'm this big guy, like almost like a mythical type thing. John Gruden has done that too. Sometimes when guys go away, it kind of like the brand and who they are just grows and grows and grows. Mm-hmm. I think Robert Saleh could do that at the college level.
I think there's too much risk involved in that because if you go there and you fail, like then what, right? I think you stick with the 49ers unless, of course, you get that Baltimore job or Atlanta calls because Atlanta seems like a pretty good job to get his way. You're talking about an 8-win team that NFC South, anybody can win that division every single year. So if you don't get one of those two opportunities, stay with the 49ers, continue doing what you're doing, which is being, if not the top, near the top of defensive coordinators.
It feels like
every year you're going to get that call.
It feels like he clearly wants to run his show.
Yeah.
I think he wants to run. He probably had a taste of it and liked it, but it's like, poor ownership and whatnot. I want to kind of be able to do my own thing. I think he'd be able to really do that in college.
With the recruiting and everything.
There's a clear delineation. It's the Ravens, the best job. Then I think it's the Falcons and probably the Giants just because they've got a good front seven on defense if you're a defensive-minded head coach, and they got a young quarterback that looks like he's going to be a keeper for you. So that's a pretty good job, and there's probably a pretty big gap after those three teams as well. But thinking about college, and I love that you brought up Carroll and Harbaugh because Wink, here's the thing, is if you're just going to jump back to the NFL anyway, you can cheat a little bit when those sanctions come. Make sure you don't lose while you're there, and then jump back to the NFL.
Well, now you can cheat.
It's not even cheating anymore to pay your players. Like you have to pay your players if you're going to compete at the college level. And well, you guys mentioned the Giants. Could he really go back to New York?
I don't know. I think people make way too big of a deal about the city. I mean, first of all, it's in New Jersey, but like he can't handle New York or something like that. I mean, I don't buy that.
People, will the Giants fans be okay with that?
I think he couldn't handle not having a quarterback. And look how much worse they got after Saleh. Not only last year, but this year. Jackson, I just saw a stat. Jackson Smith and Jigba had more receiving yards than the entire New York Jets receiving core. Their leading receiver was Garrett Wilson, who hasn't caught a pass since week 6. And he had 300 and something yards, and he was their leader.
Didn't their defense not have an interception also on the entire season?
All season.
Yeah.
Crazy.
If anything, you're sitting there in New York, and you're like, oh my gosh, they got a lot worse after Robert Saleh, not better by firing Robert Saleh. They couldn't figure out the quarterback thing, so that's a big one. If you're Robert Saleh, maybe quarterback situation's ugly. Maybe you don't want to go to a team, but if they've got a quarterback, I got to believe that makes a lot of sense. By the way, there's a dark horse secret team in all of this as well. I think we've got to talk about. There's some key stats where the 49ers fell short once again against the Seahawks in week 18. And of course, we're getting ready for wild card weekend. It is the San Francisco 49ers visiting the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll get into all of it next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Ultimate QB Football Legend. Draft picks are positioned for at least 18 teams now in the NFL. More to join them next week. Ever wished that you could become a pro quarterback, getting drafted first overall? This year, it's the Las Vegas Raiders that have that pick. Well, now you can, because there's a mobile game just for you called Ultimate QB Football Legend. In this game, you step into the cleats of a number 1 draft pick quarterback, and it's your job to lead your team to greatness. Look, maybe you don't want to be drafted by the Raiders. You can pull an Eli Manning, get yourself to another franchise, right? Help turn a failing franchise into a dynasty. You sign contracts, you train, upgrade yourself, build chemistry, evolve your teammates, and maybe even give some input to your GM if you get that kind of gravitas in your organization. And you play the actual games as well in 2D and rise through the ranks to become a pro football legend. Ultimate QB is totally free to play, has no ads, and works 100% offline as well. So perfect for when you want to sneak in a quick game or two on the go. Just head over to ultimate-qb.com. That's ultimate-qb.com, or search for Ultimate QB in your app store. And we've got something special just for you guys. Use the promo code Locked On, all caps, in the game store for a free boost at the start of your career. That's code Locked On. Ultimate QB, football legend, QB1. It's your legacy. Today's episode is also brought to you by ZocDoc. Finding a doctor you actually like can feel a little bit like discovering a diamond in a rough, but you want that in-network doctor, right? But you want to find a doctor that's nearby, and you want to find a doctor with availability, because that can be super frustrating if you can't get an appointment. But you also want a doctor who listens, who makes you feel comfortable, explains things clearly, and helps you walk out feeling confident about your next step. Your diamond in the rough doctor exists, and finding them is easy with ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website that helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors so you can choose someone you truly connect with. You can search specialty or symptoms and quickly find the right fit, and you can choose between in-person or video visits, which makes scheduling way easier. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL to find and instantly book a doctor you love today. That's ZocDoc, ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL, ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. Thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring this message. All right, guys. So real quick on the coaching front, and this is my conspiracy theory with all of it. So there's currently 7 open jobs now that the Ravens fired John Harbaugh. And Adam Schefter reporting that in the first 45 minutes after John Harbaugh was fired, just a few hours ago, his agent, Brian Harlan, said he received calls from 7 NFL teams expressing interest in his client. But here's the thing. The Baltimore Ravens is one of those 7 teams, so they're not the team that called. So assuming that means that there's 6 openings that are interested in John Harbaugh and a mystery team. Or one of those teams didn't even call, and there's multiple mystery teams, guys. I thought Mike McDaniel was safe in Miami, but let's just put all that together we talked about in the first segment. What if the Miami Dolphins say, oh, never mind, we're going to let John Harbaugh come in and pick his GM instead of you, Mike McDaniel. I'm sorry, we're going to fire you now because we got a better candidate. And by the way, I just saw another nugget that John Harbaugh's daughter goes to school in South Florida as well. So there's that.
There you go.
So John Harbaugh to Miami, Mike McDaniel gets fired, then gets to coach Lamar Jackson as Robert Saleh's offensive coordinator with the Baltimore Ravens. What do you guys think? And then the 49ers would hopefully at that point hire Jim Schwartz as defensive coordinator. So that's my conspiracy theory on this offseason movement.
I love it. I'm on board. I mean, let's be honest. Miami Dolphins, they're probably going to move on. I'm surprised it didn't happen immediately, with the way that season started for Miami. I love Mike McDaniel, but, it just wasn't really working out for him. Great turnaround, end of the season, and they're going to be in the market for a quarterback probably there in Miami. So it just seems like if I'm Jim Harbaugh or John Harbaugh, that's one of the jobs I would take. I would take Miami. I would take New York. Yeah, the four we mentioned, Atlanta. I would stay away from Oakland. I would stay away from Arizona. I'd definitely stay away from Cleveland because there are certain franchises that just have the stigma around them, right? Yeah, a guy can come in. We saw Dan Campbell do it in Detroit. For the longest time, Lions were the lovable losers, right? I mean, they were one of those teams that just couldn't get it done. He comes in, he changes that culture, wins a ton of football games. Yeah, that can happen, but there's a lot more of the other way, right? Where a good guy comes in and just can't figure it out. So if I'm Saleh, if I'm John Harbaugh too, I mean, maybe this is one of those things where John Harbaugh takes a year off and comes back.
Yeah, if the right job's not there,
like while the iron's hot.
John Harbaugh, you're going to be the hottest name next year as well, and you'll have your pick of jobs. Croc, what do you think? How many teams should be like, oh, yeah, you know what? Never mind. Just fire their head coach right now. I'm not talking about the 49ers, by the way, but there are some teams where I think you'd be like, oh, yeah, you know what? Let's just do this. And if we can get John Harbaugh, and I think that's what those phone calls were about.
I feel like Miami, I mean, that's the biggest one. And real quick, you guys just said Mike McDaniel, and it popped in my head earlier. I called Mike McDonald Mike McDaniel. So that was my apology.
I knew what you meant. I knew what you meant because I knew you were talking about Mike McDaniel there. By the way, it can't be the Browns.
I was talking about Mike McDonald, but I called Mike McDonald Mike McDaniel.
I thought you were talking about Mike McDaniel mixing with Robert Saleh. And that's why I thought you were going with that, because that was where I was going as well later on. So I got it completely backwards what you were talking about.
Maybe everybody else thought that too, and I just outed myself.
Cleveland Browns, that would be a huge heel turn if John Harbaugh took the Browns job. Like, you can't stay in the division, right? That would be brutal.
Yeah,
that would be brutal. I really like the thoughts of New York City, John Harbaugh with the Giants. Like, it feels like kind of get this thing back, and he's not Tom Coughlin in the way Coughlin was, kind of this rigid kind of old man, but let's bring some like a legit experienced coach back to the Giants.
He was a CEO.
For years, it was like Bill Parcells, like that kind of guy, that has the kind of the resume and the back end, and I've done this and won Super Bowl and, all those things. Let's get back to that. And I think that's the guy for the job.
When you look at the AFC right now, right, Buffalo Bills have been perennial playoff contenders, right? And they can't get it done. This year, no KC, no Cincinnati, no teams that they've had trouble with in the past. If they get knocked out in the first round, is there a possibility McDermott's gone? And then Harbaugh goes to a place like Buffalo.
That is a deep dark horse team. And someone tweeted that at me too. And it's like, man, it's not impossible. It's not impossible. I mean, Tomlin could still be out. There's a meme going around right now that's pretty funny, and it shows the field goal post, and it says, Mike Tomlin fired if it goes in the middle, Harbaugh fired if it's on the outside. And it was a missed kick by Tyler Loop, and it was Harbaugh that was fired, though. Buffalo Bills, I could see it.
The Steelers fired Tomlin, and then they hired Harbaugh, and then the Ravens hired Tomlin.
There you go. Just really tick people. Dude, what if he did get hired by the Raiders, though? And then the Raiders have Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, and John Harbaugh in the same division.
The legacy division.
The insanity. I mean, they already had that kind of going on with Pete Carroll anyway, although that did not work out.
Raiders are not going to get a veteran coach. No way. They're gonna get some first year guy who's never been.
They're going to have to go young and find an offensive guru to develop a young quarterback that they draft number one, right? Like, that's the only way they can go about it. All right, next guy. One key stat here with Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers, unable to come back in football games late. And the Eagles, they've been pretty good at home during the playoffs. Can the 49ers knock them off? Next. The wild card round is here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action, because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts that you can apply to bets you like most. The boosts give you more juice on the bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. And obviously, we know the games are going to get bigger and bigger every weekend. So you make the picks, then apply your profit boosts to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. All you got to do is visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. All right, guys, this is the stat we brought up before on the show, and it is still the stat is undefeated. Kyle Shanahan is 100% defeated when it comes to this stat, and he has now fallen to 0-46 after the loss to the Seattle Seahawks. The 49ers are the only team in the NFL that has not won a game when trailing by 10 or more points in the fourth quarter since the start of the 2017 season, which was the start of Kyle Shanahan's career as head coach of the 49ers. They are now 0-46 in such games. And that is that
Not good.
I mean, obviously nobody has a good record when they're down by 10 in the fourth quarter, right? But the 49ers are the only team that can't win when they're down in the fourth quarter by 10 plus points. They've come back before in the third quarter when they were down 10 plus points, but never in the fourth quarter. Brock, what do you think? We've talked about this stat before, and it continues to be a theme. And I want to bring it up because I know you've talked about Kyle Shanahan coaching not to lose instead of coaching to win at times. And he's such a good front runner as a coach, but he's not a good come from behinder as a head coach. I think that's clear because he's still even though nobody's really good at that stat, he's the worst in the NFL because he still has never done it.
Yeah, and I think for a coach that we deem to be one of the best coaches in the NFL, right? Like if every coach was fired from every team and there was just a draft, like Kyle Shanahan, how many coaches are being drafted ahead of him? So clearly he's viewed as a top tier head coach in the NFL. But for whatever reason, he falls short in that category. And that's a pretty dramatic stat right there in a super large sample size. Since he took over the Niners, the only team to not win a game while trailing like that at that point in the game. So I attribute that to just kind of how the team is built and the philosophy of the team. It is a tough, hard-nosed team, but he's never been one to just be this air it out, I can score quick. I always go back to, I mean, we've seen this several times, but one in particular, because I thought it stood out so much in this game, but the Atlanta Falcons game a couple years ago in Atlanta when the 49ers lost there and the 49ers were down 2 scores with 10 minutes left. They ended up going for it again, they got the ball with 10 minutes left in the game in the fourth quarter, down 2 touchdowns. They went for it on 4th down. When they went for it and didn't get it, there was 2.5 minutes left in the game. You have to score 2 touchdowns. What the hell is taking you so long to get down the field, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, that's Kyle, where it's just the way his team is built. It's kind of built to either be really tight and try to take a lead or try to just maul you and just win and run away. Now, that number or that stat is very like specific. They kind of skewed it to where it fit kind of that narrative because we watched him against the Detroit Lions be trailing 24-7 at halftime.
Down
and
7.
The 49ers end up winning. So he has shown he can come back. But if you remember how that comeback happened, it was like everything that you need to go your way went their way. Right? Yeah. Like multiple stops on 4th downs where their guys just dropped the ball. A ball hitting a DB in his face mask, bouncing up, and Brandon Ayuk making this miraculous catch. And then after that touchdown, the Detroit Lions fumbled on the very first play of the next drive, right? So everything kind of went your way for it to happen, but it did happen. But obviously that stat doesn't matter because that comeback didn't happen in the fourth quarter when the 49ers were trailing. So it's a little skewed, but I do think it's more so about the way that he has built his teams.
Wink, it gets amplified, Wink, right? Because he was the coach on the bad side of the 28-3 when a team came back against him, and he still hasn't won the Super Bowl. So like there's just monkeys on his back for winning the big game, coming back and winning games, and it's just one of those things where you're not going to shake it until you go hoist that Lombardi. I have a feeling.
Yeah, you're right, and to say that he's not good at it is an understatement. He's probably technically the worst of all time. Right, being 0-4, right?
Right.
Depending on the sample size that you use, that's terrible, and it's not always his fault. Obviously, I mean, a tipped interception in the fourth quarter just this past weekend changes that football game, right? And maybe they do come back and win and give him his first ever, and that's clearly not his fault that the ball gets batted at the line. But as head coach, you take full responsibility for all of those things, and once it comes to a certain point, is it in his head, right? Is he now thinking like, oh man, I'm behind again. I've never been able to come back. Is this something that's going to affect him going forward? Or is it going to fuel him as like, oh no, does he not even think about it? Does he have to block it out? There's so many things that can go wrong when you're already down 10. Is he being like you guys said, he plays not to lose. As opposed to playing to win. Does he need to open it up a little bit more? Does he even have the weapons to do that right now? I mean, he clearly didn't on Saturday. So it's definitely worrisome going forward.
And I think I sold him short because I put 0 for 46. And I believe that stat was pulled during the fourth quarter. So I think that's gone to 0 and 47 now.
Wow. That got better. Thanks.
There you go.
You don't expect to see him on the wrong end of a stat like that, just because of how good he has been.
Yeah,
as a head coach.
You would think it would just accidentally happen at some point, and because he's won so many games too. But that's not the way he's won. Speaking of stats, the Philadelphia Eagles. Here's a good stat from Shilkapedia. The Philadelphia Eagles at home in the playoffs in the Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni era are 5-0 with a plus 105 point differential in those 5 games, have outscored opponents by an average of 21 points. And just one of those games was a 1-score game, and that was last year against the Rams. This is the defending champs in their house. They've been through a lot. They are battle tested in the playoffs, and they are undefeated at home with this combination of coach and quarterback, and winning not only 5 games, but winning them by a lot on average, guys. Do you think the 49ers are running into a little bit of a buzzsaw? It did feel like going to the Eagles wasn't the best draw for the 49ers, but the Seahawks wasn't going to be a good draw. I don't think the Rams were going to be a good draw. So is this 49ers team just flawed, and it's going to have to be a magical run if it's a run at all?
Yeah, I mean, it will have to be a magical run because you're probably not going to get a home game the rest of the way unless you make it to the Super Bowl. So this is when, let's put it this way. Last time we played in Philadelphia in the playoffs, it didn't go so well. So maybe this is kind of that monkey off the back for Brock. Maybe it's like, hey, I'm going to stay healthy this whole game. I'm going to come through and I'm going to win this football game. There's your magic right there.
That is the Brock Purdy magic. Come from behind, down 10 in the fourth quarter to do it, right, Croc?
I hope not. I hope they're not down 10 in the fourth quarter.
Don't want to see it. I just want to beat them like they beat them a couple years ago in Philadelphia. Okay, you're down 6-0, started off a little weird, but you forced a couple field goals, and then you just run away. Well, Deebo Samuel ran away several times. You don't have Deebo out there. The 49ers are kind of missing those game changers.
Need a yak bro to show
Deebo, I think Ayuk made a diving catch in the end zone. A lot of people complain about those guys, call them divas, and you need Deebo and Ayuk right now. 2
things can be true. Yeah, it can be a diva and you can need him. That's for sure.
You can be a diva if you're also a yak bro, I think is the new rule for the San Francisco 49ers wide receiver. Got to get Trent Williams out there. Got to get Ricky Pearsall out there. We'll have some more injury news later on in the week here as we get closer and have a better picture of who's going to be able to play for the 49ers. Wink, do you have any predictions? 49ers Eagles Sunday afternoon.
Let's go, Brock Purdy. We gotta score more than 3 points, guys. Let's open up the offense a little bit. Hopefully, like you said, Williams is back, and hopefully Ricky Pearsall's there, because he really does change this offense when he's in there. He opens things up downfield, which sets up the run game. So get it going with Christian McCaffrey. Keep pounding the rock and go win that football game.
Croc, the 49ers signed Kaiser White today to add some depth to the linebacker group. I'm imagining that our key to victory number one on Friday is going to be stop Saquon Barkley and the run, and limit that. Not going to say stop, limit the run game as much as possible, because they cannot run all over you like the Seahawks did, or the Niners are going to be going home early.
It starts with the big dogs up front. They got to contain, set the edge, do all that good stuff, because that's a guy that can take it 80 yards real quick if you give him a lane.
Anytime.
They're going to need Kaiser White to help. Kaiser White, brother of the receiver White.
Roddy
right?
White?
No, not Roddy White.
Kevin White. Kevin White. The Bears receiver?
Kevin White.
Former first rounder? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's his brother, if I'm not mistaken. I just remember random stuff sometimes. I think they're brothers.
Not related to Keon White.
Now I got to look that up.
They're next to each other on the field.
Now he's got two whites, a green, there's another color involved somewhere.
Yep. Oh, he has two brothers in the NFL.
Oh, okay.
So Kevin White has two brothers that play in the NFL. Kaiser White, a linebacker, and Karan White, a wide receiver.
All right.
I think
Did not know that.
You can adopt Keon White into that family too. You got the K White name, right? Tune in tomorrow. We've got the crossover episode, Louis DiBiase of Locked On Eagles. Keys to victory coming up this week as well. It's going to be all Eagles, 49ers content the rest of the ways we get ready for wild card week in the NFL. Should be very exciting. And Wink, the difference, many games, if it is a one-score game, is special teams. Do you have a quick Wink watch out the door?
We saw way too much Morstead. I don't want to see 4 punts this
I liked
weekend.
it better when he wasn't punting at all. Got to be honest.
Let's go for that.
Thanks, everybody, for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Thanks to all the everydayers out there. Check out the Everydayer Club, LockedOn49ers.supercast.com. Link in the show notes. And back tomorrow right here, Locked On 49ers.
Wow.